All right, good Wednesday morning. We are in the tack it on stage of the cab corner here. We got the glue stuck in there, we're clamped on, so I gotta get it in place. I'm gonna throw a couple little tacks with the glue set up, and then same as always, we're gonna just fill our gaps with tack, keep the heat low, like we always do with the patch anyway, but more so because we do have glue in this section back here. So before the glue starts to set too much, I'm going to throw a couple tacks on there and we'll go from there. So what we've got going on and where we're at is our inner's welded in, our cab corner is welded on. It's all fully welded along the seam, minus that one spot I told you about in the back that we have glue. The reason that I do the glue is more or less, it's not to hold it in that one spot. I know it's not going to fall off because I don't have 2 inches welded, but if it's glued along there, it seals that seam from the inside, another step beyond just fiberglassing the outside. Makes me feel better about it. So yeah, now we have holes knocked through our slot welds on the outer. I just put weld through primer on. You saw me coat the inside of it. I just throw cheap black paint and stuff like that. It's e-coated, but I feel the paint will help slow it down. And then of course, as always with jobs like this, I put fluid film on the backside anyway, our cavity wax. So I guess where we're at is the last thing to weld up for this structure to be where it belongs is this outer rocker, and then we'll work on making our little connecting patches from the floor to the rocker box. Probably be 2-3 pieces. We'll get them welded in along here where we can. I'm gonna have to make a plate up in here so that I know it's solid where the seatbelt mounts, because that seatbelt mount was trashed. That's how we had to cut that in the beginning. So I'm gonna make a plate, weld it up to it, same with the floor with the plate. Yeah, that's where we're at. We're gonna do a little more welding. well underway. Getting that cab corner metal finished. We'll knock these spot welds down. I don't know, I didn't point out, but so factory, there's a little square hole in both these panels. I believe there's supposed to be a plastic cover, but being that this truck was all rotted out and no more plastic cover, I did away with it. So I slipped a piece of metal in between these two layers and welded it in, and then you know, I could have welded it and then bondoed it or whatever, but because I'm not really doing any bondo work other than, you know, skim the fiberglass and bondo where cab corner needs it, these seams are all just seam sealer. So I want to just metal finish that, so I've welded it up, built it up with weld, and ground it down. So we're almost at the point of this stuff being done, and time to start in with these patches here, which may look like a lot, but I'll show you guys it's really nothing major. Couple of strips of metal with a few bends, welded up, seam sealed up, and it'll be good to go. This is the structure right here. As long as we just tie in a couple of the supports back in, and like I said, plate where the seatbelt bolts, will be good to go. But I'm liking that. We'll get this side all tacked in and mocked up, and then we will jump over to the other side. So we're doing body work on both sides at once. So this will be all just welded all in. We'll jump over to the other side to get the other side all welded in. We'll do our body work together, both sides. So yeah, I think it's lunchtime. And we'll grab some lunch, come back out and do a little grinding, and then we'll get on making a few little floor patches. Alright guys, this is what we got going on here. This is the first of, I'm thinking at least 3 pieces. I know I can do this right here. I'll do that with one little piece. Back here I may do 2 separate pieces, and then this plate separate. So there might be 2 pieces here, piece up there. But there's our first piece, bridging the gaps. The underside where the supports are, we'll just kind of taper and fold and do what we got to do. We'll seam seal all underneath, undercoat all underneath. So here I'm spot welding to the rocker box. I'm going to just weld this, just spot weld this like this. But there's the start to having a floor back where there's a non-existent floor. All right, piece number 2 is in there. We got to make a couple sliver pieces, weld up some gaps, but it's in there. So the 2 big holes are now filled in. We're gonna make a little 2-inch strip down through here, and I'll tie everything back together. The other side doesn't have quite this much gone, so the other side is more or less the rockers and the cab corner. Maybe a couple little tiny pieces here and there, but the other side should go a little quicker and smoother. There is the last of the big pieces right there. So now fill some gaps, do some more welding, and I think See how this one's bumped up? I may have to make like a channel, or like a little raised section down through here for these clips to go into. Let's go something like that. I'm gonna have to get creative to mount that. So before I finish it off too much, I'm gonna have to come up with a solution for that. I'm gonna try to see, I believe the other side's pretty rotted as well. Let's see how there's these bumped up sections. Actually, I gotta rebuild. I think that's the only thing I gotta do on this side is rebuild those two little spots right there. So, that being said, I have this side to look at and the piece to measure off. So, should be able to make something happen halfway decent. So, that will be the last little project on this side, is making the little stepped up area for the trim piece, the sill plate to clip into. But she's back to solid. And there's metal welded in. So, I'm going to wipe this down, blow it off, probably pull the other side apart a little bit more so I can look to see what I am going to make to mount that piece, and then go from there. Okay, I believe I figured out what I'm going to do. Instead of making individual little bumps for the sill plate cover there, trim piece, I think if I put this in here, and then I should be able to mark and drill for those spots for the sill plate to pop down in there. That'd be interesting. Probably gonna have to use a drill bit, drill each side, and then a die grinder or the electric grinder, because they are like an oval. There, these things right here. So to cut a hole for that is gonna be kind of tricky, but thankfully I only have to do, what, 4 or 5 of them. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. Let's get that lined up and tacked in there, and we'll be one step closer on this side. And something like that. We have our little bumped up section to be able to slot and clip that in. Some more welding to do, so I'm gonna throw a couple little slivers in here and there. But there we go. There's the solution to that problem. That'll work. Started a little deconstruction on this side. Like I said, the side's not as bad. We're going to be able to section in the inner, and we only have to use a small portion of the cab corner. So this side should go a little quicker and smoother. I'm going to knock these spot welds out here, start trimming things up and sliding things into place and seeing where we're at. All right, we're well on our way. On this side, we have, I'll sneak this out here. That wasn't very sneaky. We have our sectioned inner in there. We're going to get that welded in first thing tomorrow. Our outer fits over that nicely. We have this front half, or the front piece where it overlays. We have that cleaned up and ready. So the next step will just be sectioning out our cab corner, getting our cab corner in place. And this side's gonna hopefully fly together. We only have a couple little spots on the floor to fix on this side. And then the only thing remaining is just cleaning up the back / undersides on both sides. Wherever supports come in and what we did. Just kind of cleaning those up, and our seat belt nut plate, reinforcing a plate. I'm gonna do like a 3/16 plate with a nut welded to it, and then that will be spot welded to the floor that we rebuilt, which is obviously tied into the rocker nice. Everything will be welded in there nice. So we are on the home stretch. Like I said, this side should be, we'll be welding on it first thing in the morning. And then should go together pretty smooth from there. I don't like to weld much later than this, 6, 7 o'clock. I don't like to be out in the shop welding really, because then of course you go to bed if there's any sparks or whatever. So I rather shut it down a little earlier when it comes to cutting, grinding, and welding. I am filthy, covered in rust dust, and God knows what else. So that being said, we're well on our way. This truck's getting back to solid, and happy with where we're at, the time we have in on it, and we're doing good. So hopefully by tomorrow we'll be body working these up, priming them, and then maybe a light night we'll get them painted, or at least get the blue inside painted. And Friday we can throw the fenders on and spray our silver on our cap corners and the bottom of the fenders. So it'd be wrapped up Friday afternoon. That sounds like a good plan to me. Sound good to you guys? Sure? All right. Then we will see you in the morning back on this. Have a good night, YouTube.